Will Peters, thank you so much for joining me in the media studio today over Zoom. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Will Peters. I go to Chapman University. I'm graduating in spring of 2021. I'm a television writing and production major. Went to CPA for 13 years, and now I'm living out here in California and probably going to keep living out here for a little bit longer. I've always been interested in film since I was a kid. Like, it's kind of how me and my family connected. We grew up watching movies and different TV shows, and so it was kind of natural that I would end up in film school in some capacity. I just love being able to tell stories, whether it's, comedic stories or dramatic or whatever it is. I think there's something like so special about being able to have an audience react to your piece in some way, whether it's good, hopefully it's good, or even if it's bad, it's a pretty special opportunity to be able to make something, have people watch it and take time to watch it. I love what I do. I plan on doing it for the rest of my life, and we'll see how that goes for me.
Well, I've seen some of your work from your time here at CPA, and I think that it will go great for you. What does a typical day look like for you?
I'm a part of a small media company here in Orange that I started. I co-founded with my friend Alex, and so we kind of organize setting up music video shoots and different commercial work, and we're trying to see what the future looks like in terms of making projects, whether it's for TV or for film. I also try to spend a little bit of each day, whether it's writing or it's reading. I love writing. I think writing's it's my favorite thing. I also direct and act and whatnot, but writing is definitely where I connect the most, and that's where I feel the most freedom. And so I think if you really want to do to the best of your ability, you got to practice it a lot. And I think reading only helps you do that because you kind of build your vocabulary, see how other people do it. It's really important in some way to have some sort of physical activity in a day. So I started doing CrossFit. I'm not very good. I'm actually pretty bad, but I will say it's actually very good because it helps me kind of get out of my head and kind of, get a little more activity, which gets my brain moving a little bit. It gets me sweating and makes me sick because I'm bad at it, but it's very good for you. So I think that's also really important, to be active and to eat well in some way. I don't always do that, but I think that's good for you too. So
yes, I can relate to that. I've done a bit of CrossFit myself, and it's very difficult. Speaking of things being difficult, what is the most challenging thing about your line of work?
Probably one of the most difficult experiences I've had in film up to this point was I was the director for an independent pilot that Chapman shot in January. And so that's one of Chapman's, I think that is Chapman's biggest production that they do. And I was a co-director for that. And that was extremely challenging because I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And I at times I absolutely didn't, but I learned a lot of really good lessons from that experience of having to deal with a crew of 60 people and a budget of, I think we had like 15,000 for that pilot. Like, one thing that was just so challenging about that was I had this pressure on me there. I felt like I had to know how to do everything. I felt like I had to do certain things to make this pilot succeed. And when in reality, I had such a good crew alongside me that if I had just, shut up a little bit more and listened to them and kind of taken their advice and just been a little more collaborative, not that I wasn't, but I think absolutely just leaning into that more so, it would have been a lot easier on me and I wouldn't have put as much pressure on myself.
So we've covered what the most difficult thing about your line of work is, but tell me, what's the most surprising thing?
It's really, really important to be able to connect with other people and make those connections and work alongside people, because you won't be able to do it on your own. If you think that you can, you will learn very quickly and unfortunately the hard way that you can't, and that's no fun. So absolutely, just the absolute need for other people and how that not only is a necessity, but it also makes your work better when you find very similar, very like-minded people to you. It's just amplifying the gifts that you already have. So
what's one of the most rewarding experiences you've had so far?
One of my favorite experiences in filmmaking, and it's really funny that it feels like it was a really long time ago, but was doing the 100-hour film contest my sophomore year of high school, because after I did a independent short while I was here at Chapman in my sophomore year, and it turned out really well, but I was kind of like, I didn't feel the fun of it as much anymore. And I was just like really confused, like why, like I felt like we'd made a good project. I felt like it had been like a really successful shoot, but I wasn't sure why. I just hadn't had as much fun doing that. And I kind of thought back on like past projects I had done, and I thought back on the short film I did for the 100-hour film contest my sophomore year, which is not a good movie. It's actually like pretty bad. But it was like such a blast to be able to work with like some of my closest friends at the time, and some guys that I still talk to like a lot these days. I think about that a lot whenever I'm like kind of like down on myself, where I'm like really thinking about like kind of lost the fun of it all, and like thinking about like why I ever really started doing it in the first place was like to be able to hang out with my friends and to be able to connect with people, and to just have like a really fun time doing it. And so I think that experience is something I look back on really fondly.
How have you seen your faith intersect with your time in college?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's a really it's a really hard element of the film industry, because there are a lot of people that just aren't involved in any sort of faith community, and they have no like background for it, or they have no just general understanding for it, or they're just really opposed to it. And so for me, like one thing that I've always thought is so important about like your own faith, your own personal faith, is how you display it and how you lead by example. And so if how I carry myself on a set, how I carry myself in classrooms and whatnot, if I can just through that display my faith and display the love for God that I have and the love that God has for me, like by loving other people really well, like I think that is like obviously just a baby step, but a very important step to make for people to see, like kind of change the narrative on what a Christian looks like. And also like one thing that's been great for me while I've been at Chapman is I've been the leader of a Bible study of other people that are in the film school here. And like that was something that I didn't really, like I was the leader of a Bible study my sophomore year, and then my junior year kind of transitioned into being more film school centric and the people that were going to it, which has been awesome to be able to connect with people about, you know, just how sometimes it can feel really ostracizing, and how it can feel like really, you know, like we're kind of alone in certain aspects of our faith and whatnot. And having people that are like-minded in that way has been really helpful to keep me going and keep me interested in projects that, you know, maybe I don't connect to at all.
So tell me, how do you feel like CPA prepared you for your career path?
I think CPA prepared me really well for film, honestly, like, especially when I came into Chapman, like one of the first classes we take in the film school is visual storytelling. So we are kind of tasked with making like, I think it's like 5 or 6 short films that first semester. And there are varying lengths and there are varying, you know, like importance and whatnot. But I quickly learned that like I had like an expertise for film and like a technical skill for it that a lot of my classmates didn't have, because they were coming from schools that either had no news program or no media program, or they had one that just like wasn't taken as seriously, or wasn't as well led as ours is at CPA. I think I love Mr. Nelson personally. He's a good friend of mine, but I also think that he's like a really good teacher. And so I think that he's done a really, really good job of like preparing students.
So Will, when you think back to your time as CPA, what's the most memorable story that comes to mind?
Like, I'm very grateful for my media experience at CPA, and I met a lot of like my best friends from CPA media. And I honestly, I think that what was really important for me in the CPA media program was being the sports anchor my sophomore year, because early on in high school, like, I mean, I think I'm relatively funny. You could ask different people, they'll give you different answers, I suppose. But I sometimes I can kind of go back into my shell a little bit, and doing the CPA news, like the sports broadcasting with Harrison Whiteside and all those guys, was actually like really helpful for me to kind of put myself in front of the camera and write my own like sports content that was basically nonsense. I was barely even talking about sports. They were just jokes, but learning to do that actually like really kind of broke me out of my shell and got me to kind of open up to high school a little bit more, and it honestly like really changed my high school experience.
I agree. Some of my fondest memories at CPA have been in the media program. Well, those are all of the questions that I have for you today. Again, thank you so much for joining me in the media studio. I look forward to hearing more from you. I hope you have a great day.
No problem, guys. Thank you.